10 mega banks secretly working on a crypto project. Now, I couldn't believe it at first either, but then I stumbled on evidence that their plan might have Ripple's fingerprints all over it. And now I can't unsee it. Now, this story feels like a crypto thriller, and it might just change everything for XRP holders like me. Now, I've been holding XRP since early 2020 through all of the ups, the downs, and the endless Twitter rumors. So when I heard a rumor that 10 of the world's biggest banks were teaming up to launch some kind of new digital coin, my XRP senses went wild. I thought, there's no way that the banks have always been so skeptical of crypto, right? What's changed now? Well, apparently, a lot has changed, and I'm about to show you why this could actually be a rather massive deal. Now, it all started with a late-night scroll through X, when a particular post made my heart skip a beat. It was a list of bank names, right? Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, UBS, Citi, right? Basically a who's who of global finance. And the post kind of claimed that these banks are secretly collaborating on a stablecoin project. Now, my first reaction was, this sounds like a crypto fan fiction. But the more that I looked, the more real it actually became. The very next day, I found confirmation. These banks did make a joint announcement. It was not splashed on TV, but was in the crypto news circuits. They said that they've launched a project to explore issuing a one-to-one reserve-backed form of digital money on public blockchains tied to the major G7 currencies. So, in plain English, they're testing out stablecoins for the US dollar, the euro, the yen, and other top currencies. And get this, they specifically mentioned the goal is to bring the benefits of digital assets into the mainstream finance world while staying 100% regulatory compliant. For big banks, that is like saying, we see the crypto light, but we're doing it our way, by the book. Now, here is where it gets juicy for us XRP folk, right? The announcement never mentioned Ripple at all, but a well-known XRP community member, Bank XRP, connected some dots. Now, he pointed out that all of these banks, every single one in that stablecoin group, have tested, worked with, or even invested in Ripple in the past. So let's just think about that. Bank of America, for instance, was part of Ripple's pilot program, officially partnered up in 2020. MUFG in Japan was one of these earliest to adopt RippleNet for faster remittances. Santander in Europe is already using Ripple's tech for its One Pay FX service, letting customers send money across borders in a blink. Now, these are not small side projects. These were big deals. So, when 10 powerhouse banks say, hey, let's build a new stablecoin system, and it turns out Ripple has history with all of them, well, you better believe that the speculation goes into overdrive. Now, do you believe that they're all working together with Ripple now? Well, that is the million-dollar question that everyone is asking. Now, I'm not usually into conspiracy theories, but this one has me seriously intrigued. Now, before I explain why this could be huge and how it ties back to XRP's price and even a crazy phone-based crypto experiment that I'm trying, let me just drop a really quick reality check. Now, this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. Your investments are entirely your responsibility, and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, so that's the disclaimer mode off. Let's get back to the story here. Why would banks even need Ripple or XRP for a stablecoin project? Well, let's zoom out for a second, because Ripple as a company has spent the last decade cozying up to banks and financial institutions, while a lot of other crypto projects try to disrupt or replace them. Now, Ripple has formed over 300 partnerships with banks since 2012, building this huge network via RippleNet. Now, if you don't know, RippleNet was basically their answer to the old SWIFT system for international payments. You know SWIFT, right? The thing that makes your wire transfers take days and pile up fees with every intermediary. Now, it's kind of clunky. It's from the 1970s, and banks hate how slow and costly it is. Now, Ripple said, hey, we can do it better. And they did. RippleNet can move money across the world in seconds with super low fees. That's why banks started paying attention. Not because they suddenly loved crypto's ideology, no, but because Ripple's technology could save them and give them a competitive edge. So, connecting the dots. These banks, they want to make stablecoins, basically digital versions of dollars, euros, etc. And for that, they are easy to kind of send around, right? Now, they also want to be on public blockchains, meaning they're not just some kind of private database that only they control, but something a little bit more open. Now, who among their trusted partners has experience with public blockchains and cross-border value transfer? Ripple, with the XRP Ledger. It fits that description pretty well. And Ripple's whole philosophy, I guess, was working with the banks. It's almost like Ripple was a decade early in pitching. Like, hey, banks, use our crypto XRP and our tech for your transfers. And most banks said, maybe later. Well, later might be now. Now, let me be clear. The banks haven't announced that we're using Ripple and XRP anywhere publicly, right? Now, this is just us reading between the lines. And I'm trying not to kind of wear the moon boy goggles right here. I do promise, right? It's possible that these banks are just doing their own thing completely separate from Ripple, but the overlap of the participants is just a little too strong to ignore. It feels like a scenario where all of the old college friends, that's the banks, are starting a business, and conveniently one friend, Ripple, happens to have all of the tools and the experience that they all need. Now, why wouldn't they just call up that one friend? Now, the timing also makes this rather interesting, right? The crypto market has been heating up over the past few months or so, right? Specifically towards the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025. Prices were surging back, and even institutions were feeling the FOMO. On top of all of that, the regulatory climate, at least in the United States, has shifted. So who would have thought, right? President Donald Trump, a figure who in the past had mixed feelings on crypto, ended up signing a law called the Genius Act, which basically gives a framework for stablecoins. And yeah, that actually happened. Right, the Genius Act is now law, passed in July of 2025, and it lays out guidelines for issuing stablecoins under the US law. Banks love clarity, and now that they have it, right? So banks are suddenly, gung-ho about stablecoins because they know how to actually stay on the right side of the rules. It's like the perfect green light. Crypto prices go up, regulations now in place, it's time to act. So, here's what we know for sure, no speculation, right? 10 major banks, including the BOFA, Deutsche Bank, Goldman Sachs, UBS, Barclays, Santander, and more, have formed a consortium to explore stablecoins pegged to G7 currencies. They've stated the goal in a very corporate way, to see if this can bring efficiency and competition to the market while managing risks and complying with the regs. In other words, they want to modernize their money transfers with crypto technology, but they want to do it carefully. Now, that alone is pretty huge news. It means that crypto, in the form of stablecoins, is no longer a dirty word in the boardrooms. It's actually an active project. Now, the Ripple angle, right? Ripple's name isn't on any announcement, but many of those banks have already quietly been using Ripple's networks, right? Bank of America, as I said earlier, was originally and officially a Ripple kind of partner by 2020. TD Bank did pilot tests with Ripple for cross-border payments. MUFG used RippleNet for cheaper remittances. Santander is using Ripple's tech for its international app. Then these are just facts. These are not, speculations. So if you're kind of leaning, or at least leading this kind of bank consortium, then you have all of these kind of pre-existing integrations with Ripple's technology just floating around. Now, the question is, would you start completely from scratch on a whole new blockchain solution? Or would you say, hey, that RippleNet thing already does a lot of what we need. Maybe we can adapt it or even use XRP as a bridge currency in our stablecoin ecosystem. Now, I can't speak for them, right? But if it were me in that boardroom, then I'd lean on what's already been built and tested, right? It just kind of makes a lot more sense. And that's kind of essentially why so many of us in the community are excited, because if Ripple is involved, it could mean that XRP finally gets that large-scale utility boost that we've all been waiting for. Meanwhile, of course, something interesting is happening with XRP's price action, right? Because I always say that price follows adoption eventually, right? And maybe some big players are thinking the same. Now, whales, the big money holders, have been or had been accumulating and actually buying the cycles pretty well, buying low, selling high. Most recently, they have been dumping on the market during this turndown. But, for the most part, they've started accumulating again. It's like, I guess, those crazy periods that we saw before. Now we're talking over $1 billion worth of XRP has been scooped up in a matter of days as the price dropped down to those lows. So just think about that. While a lot of regular people were uncertain or even bearish during this downturn, after all, XRP had been pulling back, right? The whales were actually in accumulation mode again. And in fact, on-chain data shows consistent whale buying whilst it was, moving out towards $3. And it did obviously drop down, I think $50 million a day for a little while there during this downturn, but they're back into accumulation mode. Right, just over the last 3 days or so, I think it was $1.1 billion worth has been scooped up. Some reports even put that figure a little bit higher, something like $1.3 billion in accumulation. So that's kind of some serious confidence on part of the rather bigger players. It would also make you wonder, right? What do they really know? I mean, they were trading this downturn pretty well. I might ask, maybe, they knew something that others didn't. Maybe nothing more than us, but you never know, right? It could just be technical analysis or long-term positioning, right? But there are some bullish signs forming, specifically when the smart money starts buying. Now, XRP's price, despite all of the volatility that we've seen, has managed to hold its ground relatively well. Sure, it's a little bit lower than that $3 psychological line right now, and traders are eyeing for breakouts towards the kind of $4 range. But, it's an interesting time to be looking at XRP. Basically, the price is looking for that previous all-time high. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to be guaranteed that we're going to have that breakout situation anytime soon, right? We've all been burned by the hopium before, but the chart setups are looking a little bit more kind of interesting now. I think with this flush out, it actually sets the stage for a bigger run to the upside. And of course, this rumor-fueled momentum could, of course, feel a bit like a coiled spring ready to kind of break upwards. It's kind of like everyone's waiting for that one piece of confirmation or news to kind of really let it rip. Now, as I'm kind of tracking all of this high-level bank drama and the whale movements, I'm also tinkering at heart here, right? Now, a tinkerer at heart, I should say. I love exploring the grassroots sides of crypto, right? The weird projects that pop up in the community, right? And recently I discovered something called Unity nodes. It's totally different from Ripple and stablecoins, but it actually ties into the same theme of regular people participating in these bigger networks. So you might be thinking, what are Unity nodes? Well, you got to think of it like this, right? We usually hear about mining Bitcoin with huge rigs, right? But Unity is actually like mining or earning crypto using just a smartphone by helping verify the telecoms networks. Sounds a little crazy, I know, right? Essentially, the project lets people like you and me deploy an app on our phone, right? Or phones, like these ones over here, to basically make automated test calls or to check the mobile networks to ensure that they're actually working correctly. In return, you earn crypto rewards for contributing that data. It's kind of like a tiny decentralized auditor for cell networks. Now, this caught my attention because, well, I had a bunch of phones just lying around. I'm a tech hoarder at heart. And Unity Nodes introduced an NFT system. So you can buy this Unity Node NFT that gives you basically 200 licenses where you can connect up to 200 phones as nodes in this network. And only a limited number of those larger NFTs, those master node NFTs, actually exist, which adds a little bit of scarcity and excitement to all of this. Now, I went ahead and I purchased one of these Unity master node NFTs, which indeed came with 200 licenses just as advertised. Now, don't worry, I'm not suddenly going to set up 200 phones right here in my office. My wife would probably kill me and the electricity bill would probably skyrocket. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with these 10 phones that you see right here on the desk and see how it goes. Now, the cool part is that Unity lets you withdraw your rewards in various different cryptocurrencies. So I personally set mine to pay out in BTC, Ethereum, ADA, and of course, XRP. You've got to earn more XRP when I can, right? Now, they even have a reward calculator on their website that shows how some pretty eye-popping potential earnings if you were to run all 200 devices at maximum capacity. Now, I'll be honest, those numbers look really good on paper, almost too good. So, there's one thing that I've learned in crypto is that you've got to stay skeptical until you see the real results, hence the small experiment. So I'm treating this as a fun experiment, right? If my 10 test phones do rather well in the next few weeks, then maybe I'm going to scale up and activate even more licenses. And if not, hey, at least I tried and I'll report back so that you don't have to waste your money either. Here's the important thing though, right? If you are intrigued by Unity and Unity nodes, then you've got to do your own research, right? Don't just jump in because I did, right? You've got to check out their calculator. You've got to read the fine print. You've got to hang out in the Discord and you've got to ask lots of questions. The Unity team claims that the rewards come from actual telecoms carrier fees, like they're getting paid by the operators for these tests and sharing that revenue with us. Now, it sounds sustainable, right? But, you won't know for sure until it runs for a while. Got to remember, nothing is guaranteed in this space. The Unity numbers might not pan out, or there could be technical issues. I'm hopeful, but I'm also realistic. And if it does work, that's a win-win, right? I can see a lot of people doing this as their 9 to 5 because, well, those rewards are very lucrative. Now, I'm going to contribute to improving the mobile network and I'm going to earn some crypto passively. And if it doesn't, well, it wouldn't be the first crypto experiment that flopped, right? I'm going to keep you all posted either way, likely in the free educational Discord server that we run. Shameless plug though, there is a link in the description down below. You can come and join us and chat about it. It's stuff like this though that makes me really passionate about crypto. It's not just about the big bank deals, but also the grassroots innovations where everyday people can actually take part. Now, circling back to the big picture, why does any of this bank stablecoin stuff really matter to you and I? Well, if you're an XRP holder like me, then it matters because it could dramatically accelerate the adoption. For many years, the narrative was banks will never use a public crypto. They'll make their own blockchains. And yes, they have been, at least there are some that are making something. But the key here is that if they're using a public network and possibly partnering with Ripple, XRP could become the bridge asset connecting all of these new stablecoins together. Right? Just imagine a network where there's a digital dollar, digital euro, digital yen, etc., right? All issued by big banks. You're going to need something that connects those different currencies when money moves across the borders or between institutions. Now, XRP was literally designed to be that bridge, a neutral asset that can be exchanged for any other currency with minimal friction. So in an ideal situation and scenario here, if these stablecoins launch and the banks want liquidity between them, well, they could tap into the XRP markets or Ripple's ODL, the on-demand liquidity, RippleNet payments, right? Now, system which basically uses XRP to shuffle the value around. Now that could drive huge demand for XRP and also validate Ripple's technology on a global scale. It's like the end game that Ripple envisioned a decade ago finally playing out. And banks are using crypto under the hood while the whole world just experiences much faster, cheaper payments. Now, I'm also bracing for a less ideal scenario. It's possible that the banks do all of this without XRP at all. Maybe they use a different blockchain or multiple different blockchains or some new interoperable solution. Right now, that would be a bit of a bummer for XRP holders. But even in that case, Ripple, the company, could still benefit by offering integration or advisory services, and XRP would still ride the general wave of crypto adoption. Now, the fact that banks are doing this at all is a pretty big positive for the crypto industry. It means that the fight was worth it. Crypto isn't just going to stay in its little corner. It's actually merging into global financial system. So let's take a moment here to appreciate how far things have actually come. In 2018, banks were laughing at crypto or outright banning their employees from even touching it. In 2020, it took a leap of faith buying XRP, thinking maybe someday this little token would actually sit at the heart of bank transfers. Now, back then, it kind of felt far-fetched. Today, it doesn't. So when I see big names like Goldman Sachs and Santander in a crypto project press release, then I have to kind of pinch myself. It's finally happening, or at least something is happening. And if Ripple is indeed behind the curtain here, then it's a bit like our team is in the finals, even if they haven't won the trophy just yet. Just getting this far is vindication. Now, I do want to temper my excitement with reality because the project that the banks announced is still in the very early stages. They're exploring and assessing, so we might not even see a launched stablecoin for a while. There will be pilot tests, regulatory check-ins, maybe even public-private partnerships. Now, it could be months or years before we, the consumers, feel the impact of it, like using a bank-issued digital dollar in an app. And there's always a chance, that plans just fizzle out, maybe even hit a snag. So cautious optimism is going to be key here. And from an investor kind of standpoint, I'm hopeful but not irrational, right? XRP has run up, since 2024, at least in price, quite a bit already. And, we did hit $3.66 at one point. A lot of good news might already be kind of priced in. But if this bank, thing turns into a real deal, then I believe that we could see another level of FOMO, both retail and institutional. We might even see XRP retest that kind of $3.90 from 2018 and maybe even break into the $4 new all-time high territory. Who knows? Now, I'm not going to make any wild price predictions. I've learned my lesson there many times over. But I am positioned for the long term. I mean, I didn't hodl for 5 years just to sell right before the finish line, or at least what looks like it. It's approaching in my opinion. Now, one more thing that's worth mentioning is how I plan to navigate this if and when more kind of concrete news drops. I'm going to be discussing it with our community on Discord, staying on top of the official announcements, and as I kind of also keep an eye on the broader kind of crypto trends like Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs, and maybe even those altcoin ETFs getting approved. Or if, the coin's moon, for example, because XRP doesn't move completely in isolation. It is all interconnected with other crypto assets. Also, here's a quick shout out, right? If you're looking to trade or accumulate more crypto during all of this excitement, then I personally use a couple of really solid exchanges. Things like Blofin and BitGet, LBank, Kraken, there's a whole list. In the description down below, you're going to find a link to our website, which has all of the affiliate links for all of the exchanges that we use. Now, a part of my strategy is to essentially make sure that we are signed up to as many different exchanges as we possibly can, right? Because When you have big kind of moves in the market, the one that we saw most recently, a lot of the exchanges struggle under the load, right? You can't log on, you can't trade, you can't deposit, you can't withdraw. And so you've got to have multiple different options to make sure that you always have a route to either trading, cashing in, cashing out, buying, selling, whatever it is that you're trying to do at that particular moment. So I always recommend people to sign up to as many different exchanges as you possibly can and always have your kind of go-to. Sign up, test, trade, make sure you do KYC, make sure that everything works as expected for every single exchange. This is part of the strategy that a lot of people forget to kind of do, because when that moment comes when you need to sell your assets and the exchange is down because there's just too many people also trying to sell, some people are just left holding a bag that they can't unload. So it's important to make sure that you have as many different exchanges as possible. So in the description down below, you will find links to my website. And on the website, you're going to find all of the exchanges that we are affiliated with. Now, if you do click on those particular links, sign up and trade on those exchanges, then you should know that those are affiliate links and they do support the channel here. So if you do that, then I do really appreciate that and I say thank you in advance. Now, of course, it's got all the usual kind of sign up perks depending on your jurisdiction as well. So if you're in the US or in Asia, there's different kind of sign up perks depending on where you are as well. Just keep that in mind. But you should also remember to exercise caution and to not overtrade in any of the hype. Stepping back, this has been one of the wildest weeks that we've had in crypto for a while. From chasing down rumors about banks forming a crypto alliance to experimenting with a whole bunch of phones to a massive crash in crypto market. In fact, the biggest one that we have ever seen. It's never a dull moment in this space, and that's kind of why I love it. It's not just about getting rich quick, although, hey, we all like the gains, right? It's actually about being part of a story that's unfolding in real time. We literally are watching the financial world change step by step, and we each get to participate in our own little way. Whether that's holding a token like XRP, running a Unity node experiment at home, or just staying informed and sharing information with others. For me, the takeaway from all of this unfolding story is this. Keep an open mind, but stay critical, right? 5 years ago, I would have laughed at the idea of governments and big banks embracing crypto, but now I'm seeing it happen. So what might seem impossible today, like XRP becoming a backbone of global finance, might be tomorrow's reality. But also, you got to verify and research, right? Don't just buy something because it's rumored to be the next big thing. You got to look for the evidence, like we did with all these bank ties to Ripple. Weigh the risks and then decide for yourself. I'm feeling optimistic right now. I won't lie. I'm optimistic about XRP, about new tech like the Unity nodes, making crypto just more accessible, and about the fact that we're even discussing a G7 stablecoin project. It means crypto has arrived, people, right? It already has. Right? We're not in the shadows anymore. All right, well, I've rambled on probably long enough for one video. So if you have found this as useful or maybe even as intriguing as I did, then you can do me a favor by smashing that like button and hitting subscribe for more of these deep dive stories. And I will catch you all in the next one.